Okay, we're on the air. This is the daily OSRA Scrum for Tuesday, December 30th, 2014. Here we have Andre, Craig, Christian, Robbie, and myself. Let's do a quick go around the room, and I'll actually start because I can very simply say that I've done nothing. I spent the day with my family just about, 15 minutes ago. I started trying to do something, and that something was I started looking at the README and the contributing documents that we have, but that's all I can say for the time being. So that's me. Robbie, let's go to you. You've been away for a while.
Yeah, hi guys. I've just really got back yesterday evening. Today I've been looking at stuff to remove the settings. So I've been updating the orphan importer not to use the settings file and changing the RSpec stuff. So I've nearly got that in a fit state that I can push it through. Just got to do a few more checks and debug it a bit more. That's about it for me.
All right. Christian.
Yeah. Last night after the Scrum, me and Andre paired on 244 active admin filters, and we did a pull request at the end of the after a few hours. And not sure if you guys looked over it, but that's about it. We have a few questions, I think, about the code, but nothing important.
Okay. What's next for you? Do you have any tasks assigned to you?
For now, nothing. Since tomorrow is New Year's Eve, maybe we should wait until the 1st.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Andre, do you have anything to add to that description?
Well, just to remind that the filter that we actually implemented. So yesterday was like the last filter, right? Basically, we did most of the a huge part of the filters were done by Craig and Brian. Then we did a lot of other filters, and yesterday was all devoted to just one filter, filtering sponsors by the number of sponsorships, which we did through adding an extra column and creating a method, a private method for the sponsor that would add or subtract a number, or rather no, it wouldn't add or subtract, or it will recalculate the number of associated sponsorships for the sponsor every time the sponsorship status is updated. So every time a new sponsorship is created or a sponsorship is inactivated, it will recalculate the number of sponsorship for the particular sponsor. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Craig, let's wrap up with you.
Nothing exciting. Work all day today, so I've not had a chance to do anything. Last night, I had a quick look at the problem Brian's been having. And you know that stubbing code that we had in the controller helper?
Mm-hmm.
I believe when you don't want to sign in, you're meant to sign in with nil.
Okay.
But I tried that and it throws a warden exception.
The same one that we've been seeing?
No, it's an actual throw of an exception.
Okay.
And it's on court and it bails out, and by the time I got to that it was gone midnight, so I quit on it and I've not had a chance to look at it since. I did send a quick note on Slack to Brian, but he seemed to think that he's been through all that and it's a waste of time.
All right.
That's as much as I've done.
Do you think that this basically the working of the device should be tested? Because what I think you tested by trying to enter as a non-signed-in user, you were basically testing the functionality of the device. Is this
it's messy. as usual, I probably sit on the fence. I can see both sides. I don't think we should overly test because you're right. A lot of this is device stuff. I can see. I understand the viewpoint that people maybe want to issue a GET request and see that it redirects to the sign-in and make sure anything isn't accessible to passers-by. How much of that we do, I don't think we need to do a huge amount of it, but I can understand why people would want to do a little bit of it. But I'm still not sure why we don't just lean on Cucumber for that.
Yeah, can this be done through Cucumber? That's
Brian seemed to think not yesterday when we were talking. I suggested we do it, and he said we didn't do it, and then I suggested we didn't do it, and then I'm not sure. I lost the thread a little bit towards the end.
Yeah, I felt like the compromise at the end of last night's meeting was a pretty good one. That we can simply test that the authenticate method gets called, and after that we sort of that's in the controller spec, and after that point we trust device to do what it's designed to do. But yeah, to be sure, then at the high level we test this thing with Cucumber. And I wasn't quite clear. I mean, his objections or his concerns about Cucumber didn't seem to be founded on the fact that he had tried it and it failed, but that somebody else had complained about Cucumber and device, perhaps.
Okay.
But to me, it just seems that if Cucumber is essentially driving a browser, and
we should get the redirect.
And yeah, and he says that it works perfectly well in the browser, then I can't see what the problem would be in this particular case.
So yeah, I think we're all on the same thing. A smattering of testing just to show that it works, and that's it, and that's all.
Yeah.
Do I remember correctly when it was almost in the very first days when I joined this project, I think you discussed your plans for switching over to Rails, to pure Rails, and I think you said that you want to have as little Cucumber as possible, or even to get rid of Cucumber altogether because it is slow. Is this?
No, not exactly like that. What we said at the time is that we want to start using Cucumber properly, which we feel we haven't been doing so far, because and that was in a way that was at least partly that was due to ActiveAdmin, because with ActiveAdmin, at least when I gave it a quick shot, it wasn't very easy to write view specs. So we ended up having view specs written in Cucumber. And there are other problems, like our Cucumber tests are very low level, and even when you think of Cucumber as a substitute for ViewSpec, even those view specs were just unnecessarily detailed in some cases. But the consensus was that we keep Cucumber and we use it. We definitely use it to do BDD, and that's how we do our integration tests. We chose to continue with Cucumber instead of RSpec for that. But we just don't want to take the current Cucumber test suite as a model to follow.
Because it's awful.
Because it's awful. Brian, welcome.
Hello.
Do you want to finish things up for us? You're the last one to go.
Yeah, I just got home. Let's see. I did touch up the number 289. I didn't look and see if anything else happened since then. I moved 282 in Jira as a subtask under 288 instead of 262. And I did something else. I don't remember what. Yeah, pretty much everything I'm going to do is going to be after now. Do we have any problems from the client? Did I miss something?
I haven't seen anything. Let's do a live check right now. There's nothing on G+. And here
Brian,
we
did you see your... Sorry.
and it doesn't seem like they've done anything with the application.
Okay. What, Craig?
Did you say your avatar was an oil painting?
I think it was a painting. Yeah, I think so.
That shocks you, Craig?
No, I'm just curious what sort of painting and where, whether it was at the gallery or...
No, I don't know who did it or what media they used or anything like that.
Brian, now that I'm looking at this, can you shed some light on what the relationship is between OSRA 262 and OSRA 288?
Yeah, yours looks different than mine. Let me refresh it.
Maybe I should do the same.
Yeah, I think you need to refresh yours. Uh, 262 I think was a more narrow scope, and some of the things we decided to do different ways. 288 is much more broken down, I think, and it's a whole model which was more accurate to what we were doing. I don't know who made 288, but I thought the 282 needed to be moved under that, and probably 262 we probably don't need anymore.
Okay. 288, that was me, evidently. Oh yeah, that was when I created the epic to remove
Oh yeah, you just reminded me. That's the difference. 262 was tagged with a label, AA migrate, and everything under 288 is in the epic. Yeah, I forgot about that. So I moved 282 so it was in the epic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 262, this to OSRA 280, that was updating the gem, right? Oh no, sorry.
280 was
Yeah, okay, I see what it is.
specifying something that was being guessed on by active
Right.
I don't know whether this...
281 was canceled, and 293 was canceled because it's superseded by 289. And 281 was canceled because it's not relevant anymore. So the whole 262 thing, I think, can probably be gone.
Let's move it to done then.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you guys before I did that, but I
All
didn't
right.
fix up the other stuff to more accurately depict what's happening and to be included in the epic.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think that just cleans up the board and maybe, well,
Oh, and the code review. The code review on 289, I matched that to what we discussed yesterday. So some of the code review I fixed up and pushed another commit, and then some of it I made another story. If I can figure out where it went. Oh, 314 was the two pieces that we talked about the other day.
Right.
So if we merge 289, we won't forget about those because it's 314 now.
Okay.
So I did separate that out.
Sounds like a good move. All right. Anything else for the Scrum portion?
I think also OSRA 244 can be moved to code review. That's the filters.
Oh yeah, I saw that yesterday too, but I didn't move it because it wasn't really my thing.
Okay, so it should be reflecting pretty accurately our current state right now. Okay. So we're done with the Scrum?
Yep.
Guess
All
so.
right.
Do we need to decide which tasks to take next? I mean, after I'm finished with 244, I don't have anything else to do.
You can always do some code review.
Oh.
Code review is the big task that's not a task in Jira.
Yeah.
What else? Well, since we're lacking anything that is an urgent thing, then, as we talked about yesterday, perhaps this is the time to take the opportunity and work on Rails.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I guess, at least I remember Brian saying that everything hinges on his first commit, on his first pull request.
yeah.
That's what I was going to talk about next. Yeah.
So,
289. If you're happy with 289, except for what I split out into 314, then we can base everything on that if it's merged.
has anybody looked on at 289 since Brian's latest push to it?
When was your latest push?
I don't think you looked at it, Craig. I think Andre did. Nick, I don't know if you did.
I did
Probably.
not.
There's a new partners controller spec you probably need to look at.
Okay.
Aside from that, it's yeah.
Okay, that's it. You're right.
I would look at the partners controller spec. That's probably what you need to look at.
I'm sorry, what is this that I'm looking at here?
Let me look at your screen. Yep, that. That's what I'm talking about. So that's how we can test, I guess, that it's authenticating.
How do you pronounce this?
Well,
Yeah.
I originally had foobar, but the inflection engine for Ruby was getting confused, it was putting underscores in the wrong places and not making it plural correctly, so I just changed it to something else, which is that Nux controller. I couldn't think of anything better to type. It just effectively needed to be something that would never appear in the app, and that definitely won't. So
Yeah, seems pretty safe.
pretty safe.
All right, let me go through this, I guess, when we're done here, and just from looking at it quickly right now, I think it should be ready to go. Craig, will you be able to look at it tonight as well?
Yep.
Okay. So then let's go back. Yeah, sorry, Brian.
I remember asking Brian about that, but since we're here as a team, is there really a reason to put the partner controller inside the to make it a kind of a module of HQ?
Oh, that was something that we had talked about. Yeah, there was another piece of code review. If you look at routes.rb, we changed it to a namespace.
Yes. We changed it to a namespace. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that does require, yes, that does require that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say if we can fairly confidently say that 289 will get merged tonight, then for OSRA 288, there is 291 and 292 that are outstanding and unassigned.
Yeah.
And
So,
314.
Yeah, 314. I feel since I'm the one who stirred up all this mess.
I'm thinking it. You're saying it.
Exactly.
You were supposed to create a mock-up, huh?
It's cooking.
I'm excited about that, I have to be honest.
So while I've got you all here,
Get ready for a letdown, Craig.
Well, no, it depends on your perspective. If we get let down the first time, it's just one way. It doesn't work. You know, I think I don't know. I think this is interesting. You know, we've got a chance to try and do something a little bit different, and it'll either work or it won't work. That doesn't mean it's dead in the water if it doesn't work first time, though.
All right. Well, yeah, like I said, I gave it a bit of thought. I haven't actually sat down with pen and paper yet. So at some point I'll submit it for your disapproval.
So, if while you're all here, if anybody's looking at Partners Controller spec that I added last night, the purpose, what that's attempting to do is you can check and see if the controller receives that when you get an action, when you send an HTTP request, but effectively you would have to test each action individually. And then if you added an action and you didn't add a test for that action, it's not checking that that action is authenticating. So basically what this does is, what the test is doing is it's checking to make sure that meta programming is in place to ensure that that is always called before any action.
If you're having to tell us, should we not have a context or something in there?
I'll be looking for that comment to be posted, I guess.
Well, no, I mean, if you've had to describe it, my first thought off the top of my head is maybe that's what we need to describe it as. But what are people's thoughts?
Well, I'm a big fan of clarity. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what it's doing is pretty clear. It's just the why. Why did I do it that way instead of just calling getIndex and making sure it called authenticate admin user? The reason why is because you could add a show action and then this wouldn't be checking show. But the way I did it, you can add any method you want and this will check it no matter what it is without changing the test. So it's ensuring that there will be no holes now or later. Not just now.
All right. Well, let's get to that in code review then. If it has to be addressed, then people can leave comments. Okay, so that brings us back to Andre, Christian, whoever else has nothing to do. There's OSRA 291 and OSRA 292.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if anybody's interested, I'm not insisting that OSRA 314 is mine and mine alone. If anybody wants to get involved in either one of these two things within that, then by all means do so as well.
Well, if I could add that all 5 of these are waiting on 289 to be merged. It's the 282, 290, 291, 292, and 314 all need to be based on 289 when it's merged.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it sounds like we're fairly confident that this can be done tonight.
Okay.
And if it's not done tonight, I mean, there you can always resort to pulling Brian's branch and creating a new one off of that. But that's of course less than ideal.
Yeah, it is. That's what's going on with 282, and it's far less than ideal.
Okay. Well, let's make this a priority then. So
I can take 291 then.
291, okay. Done.
Andre, do you want to pair on this?
Yeah, sure. I'm not entirely sure whether I can do this today.
Not today, tomorrow, or after first.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. Then I think also 292 should be assigned to Andre.
Okay.
Right?
Cool. So we're taking both of them.
Well, they're related, so.
Okay.
Well, they're related, but they are supposed to be completely independent.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
are independent.
that's what I'm thinking, to create them on
Hey.
different pull requests.
Even though they're completely independent, I can definitely foresee them sharing a view partial for the form.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, right.
Yes. The edit and new, yes.
Guys, how about this? How about, especially if you think that you might not get around to 291 until the 1st, how about we leave 292 unassigned for the time being in case somebody wants to take it
Sure.
in the
Sure.
meantime, but then if 291 you submit a PR for that, then I think it would be pretty natural for you to continue working on 292.
Sure. Hopefully we'll do it tomorrow. 291.
Okay. I guess another thing that we can think about right now, so we said already, myself, Andre, and I didn't quite follow if anybody else or everybody else will not be available for the Scrum tomorrow. Are these remaining tasks in 288 enough to keep people occupied until our Scrum on the 1st of January, or should we? Well, I guess it would be premature to create another Rails task at this point, wouldn't it? Let's get 289 merged in, and
Yeah,
we'll be in a better position then.
I think if 289 gets merged in, I don't see, if somebody doesn't have anything to do, I'm not sure what would stop them from making a task for another view. Oh, actually 288 is just for partner, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So what I was thinking of, should we move on to something else?
Well, if you want to make a whole new big one with no subtasks, that way if we needed to, we could.
I tend to think that maybe we should finish 288
Okay.
in its entirety, and then have a look at it, and then we decide if this is the same path that we want to follow for all the other models.
Okay, so then the highest priority then, I guess, is code review on 289. If there's any issues noted, then I will prioritize getting that repushed
Okay,
as
sounds
soon
like
as
a plan.
possible. So,
All right. So sounds like at least for the next 24 to 48 hours, people will be occupied, or as occupied as they want to be. Okay. Anything else for us to talk about?
Can I just check a couple of things about the settings and the validation? Because I think some of that has changed recently. Someone else was changing the settings file, were they? Is that yourself, Craig?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I had to. They've changed the spreadsheet.
Right. Okay. So I know they put in a separate column in the spreadsheet.
Yeah, there's an additional columns right at the start, and then everything else has been.
Yeah, I did notice. Yeah, and some of the other settings are changed a wee bit to allow Y and N as in addition to the Arabic equivalents. Is that right?
There was one, I think. Yeah.
Oh, one was changed. Yeah, they were using the Arabic.
Yeah, for true and false sort of thing.
Yeah, and they've changed to yes and no. And rather than remove the Arabic, I've just left the Arabic in there and added the Y and N.
Right. Okay.
And then there's one more additional change that you should be aware of. Nix had to create a new type of column because floats.
Yeah, I'm aware of the float issue.
Okay.
Yeah, because it passes through numbers as floats, even though you want them to be strings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing was the validation I had was failing on one of the provinces. And
Yeah.
it was,
Is it the Damascus?
yeah, Damascus and surrounding countryside or something.
If you look at the latest pull release and copy the Arabic from there, basically, they're spelt the same, but one's got a space where it shouldn't have, our original one. and it only highlighted because the issue only became apparent when they sent the new spreadsheet with the correct spelling, and our test started failing.
Okay.
So I pasted the two values in a Google Plus post to them, and they explained that the value that we were using had an additional space and shouldn't have, and so that's been removed.
Right, and if you've updated the province settings then with that, do you remember which code it was? Oh, I can find out from the English one. I'm going to recheck. Damascus is 11, was it?
Yeah, that's the one, right? It was Damascus and surroundings, and that's the very first one, so code 11. Okay, so if I change that over to what is in the settings file, it should work. Is there a spreadsheet, a test spreadsheet, which has all of the possible provinces? That would be handy.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
But you can easily create one yourself, of course.
Yeah. Is there any chance of getting some kind of like anonymized data from the clients? You know, set the orphan names and all that sort of stuff to nothing. You know, just name 1, name 2, name 3 or equivalent, so that's all anonymized. But you know, a good set of data that we could throw through the system to check the importer.
So you basically want to check every possible combination, permutation of...
Well, just if you have live data like this, it tests it a lot more thoroughly than you can with, you know, handcrafted stuff. And if we could get some anonymized spreadsheets, I think would be very helpful. Just make sure that there weren't other sort of funnies sitting in there.
Well, if there are, they are certainly going to come out of the woodwork pretty soon, because the application is now live, the client is using it, or well, supposed to be using it on a daily basis. So they'll be importing their massive orphan lists shortly. So they're probably in a better position to do this kind of stuff, because they'll know immediately what it is that's broken, whether it's a spelling error or, you know, formatting, punctuation, etc.
Okay.
You know, we can request it. It just seems to me that we are not in a good place to be doing that kind of work. Whereas,
okay, but do they actually do that on their test? You know, their staging server? Do they actually push through big spreadsheets on that?
did they do big spreadsheets? No, they didn't.
Yeah, but because, you know, it's there could be further bugs, I suspect, in that importer.
Well,
you know, we found quite a few recently, so I suspect we haven't totally debugged it.
Well, my take on it remains the same, Robbie. I would let the client start using the application, because we've written the importer and we tested it to the best of our ability. They tested it on the staging server with their data.
But what I'm asking for, have they on the staging server actually, you know, tested the importer thoroughly with you know, a big mix of data?
I mean, I couldn't really tell you what they've done. I know that when I cleared out the database on a regular basis, there were maybe a dozen records in it at a time.
Okay, that's not enough, really. You know, there's more than a dozen provinces in there by themselves. It's just if you want to get, you know, it thoroughly debugged, you know, it's really beneficial to put through a big amount of
Robbie, we can ask him for it, but I think that the task that you were taking on, that you would be taking on, is, like I said, I think it's better left to the client, because, you know, if something fails the way that this Damascus, the spelling of Damascus failed, you will have no idea what's happened. Whereas they will know what the problem is, and they will know where the problem came from, whether it came directly from the partner or it was something that the OSRA staff kind of messed up at some point. They will be able to zero in on it more quickly, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Craig.
So if it is a concern, sorry, Robbie, if it is a concern, the new version of the spreadsheet has 2 worksheets, and the second sheet contains lookups.
Yes, I saw that. Mm-hmm.
So you could create that spreadsheet that you're wanting to create quite quickly yourself using the canned data that they've got in their lookups.
Yeah. I'll
everything
check those against the lookups. Yeah.
Because everything else is optional fields or fields that aren't going to fail validation anyway. So if you think that we need to check that, that's fine. But it should be just a case of pulling the drop-down boxes in the first sheet that access the lookups and choosing one of each type. It shouldn't be a massive job, and I'm not sure we would need to go to the client to do that.
No, that's a good point, Craig. I'll cross-check them against those validation sheets on the second sheet. That'd be good. Yeah. You haven't done that for all the provinces, have you?
No, I haven't. I was very lazy, to be honest with you. I imported three rows.
Okay. I'll do it for the other provinces then, and that will never mind the rest. Yeah.
And maybe we need one test that does more than 3 rows. But the reason I stuck with just 3 rows was because in the spec tests we have the 1 importer Excel file and the 3 importer Excel file.
Yeah.
And obviously all those tests are written to just to pass on one valid value or 3 valid values. So I just basically went through that workflow without thinking about it too much.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else, guys?
I know that it is an early question, but I remember that yesterday Craig tried to raise the question of filters. How would the filters be implemented in the pure Rails branch?
Yeah, and we thought that we could do some research about that, see if gems are available, etc.
I wonder...
I think there's that one gem that'll do filters, Active Admin, I think. We could install that.
I've heard of it.
Oh, man.
I wonder if Elasticsearch is out of the question.
Is it?
It's just my question. I know that it is. It would be an overkill, but it would be interesting to work with it. It's a cool search engine. So it should be able to search to search by different parameters, therefore to filter.
Is it maintained, and at least in version 1?
Oh, it's very much maintained. It's one of the big search engines, and it also exists on Heroku, at least some reincarnation of it, some variation of it. And they say that they have different plans, right, for the users. And I think they have a free plan that is up to 10,000 documents, as they call it, or 10,000 records in the database. And as far as I understand, our clients are not going to have more than 10,000 records, or not in the foreseeable future. So we might try to use this thing, and it would even be for free.
I'm confused about how it being on Heroku would integrate with our application.
Yeah, I'm equally confused.
Our application is on Heroku, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So it is like an add-on. So you like Postgres, right? You have you have Postgres on Heroku, so you don't have to install anything. You basically switch it on.
I- that rubs me the wrong way.
Well, I mean, well, yeah. But
Well,
when you want to run a search,
yeah.
how do you do it from strictly, let's say, just for now, from strictly UI perspective? Like it dynamically inserts some kind of a search box into your pages, or what are we talking about here?
Um, that's a good question. No, you don't. It. I don't. I'm not entirely sure how would it. How is it going to be integrated? How do you integrate it when it is on Heroku? I know that I tried at some point to work with it on the local machine, and for that I had to download it and to install it and to create queries for it. Um, it might be. I might try to research into this.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I see that they have multiple search solutions, but yeah, I'm very much confused about how this is supposed to
Yeah,
work within our application.
and
well,
seeing as we're not locked into Heroku now, I would prefer to do something that wouldn't cause that.
That's also, I think, a very valid point.
Well, if you move over from Heroku to a virtual, what is it, VPS, virtual private server, when you basically have a Linux box as a server, you can always install this Elasticsearch, for example, right? You can always install it on the Linux server. It's basically in Ubuntu repos.
So I guess if I rephrase what I said, it means that it's going to work verbatim no matter where we put it. Not oh it'll work, but we have to do something different.
Yeah, yeah,
That makes
exactly,
sense.
exactly, yes.
I'm not saying no. I'm just saying that's the first thing that I think about when you say it's an add-on for Heroku.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, I think I phrased it poorly. It's not a specific thing for Heroku because I'm not a huge fan of their prices. It's just a convenience that, I mean, like Postgres SQL, right? You can install it on your machine, you have your own instance of Postgres. Then you go to Heroku, you have their instance of Postgres, their database, and it integrates with their database nicely. So I think, I expect, I hope that the situation with Elasticsearch is basically the same as with Postgres. You create your code, you install Elasticsearch locally on your machine, and it is system-wide install. It's not a gem. Uh, then you write the code that would integrate your app with Elasticsearch. Then you deploy the application and activate the add-on for Elasticsearch.
Andre,
Yes,
does this interest you?
kind of.
Is this you semi-volunteering for a spike?
Um,
Yeah, might be. Yeah, possibly.
before we volunteer, Andre, for anything, I'm looking at, I mean, I picked one at random. There's Bonsai, Elasticsearch.
I've not heard of Bonsai. I have heard of Elasticsearch.
Well, apparently Elasticsearch is just kind of a description of.
Yeah, they call
conceptual.
it Bonsai on Heroku. So you're looking at Heroku, I guess.
Well, there are multiple there are multiple plugins that will do Elasticsearch. Bonsai is one of them.
Okay.
And what I'm seeing here is how to use it through the command line interface.
Yeah. Can you share your screen?
Yeah, hang on a second.
Yep.
So, okay, let me back up. Search, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is found Elasticsearch, there's bonsai Elasticsearch, there is search box Elasticsearch.
Oh, interesting.
So, just for why not, I picked bonsai.
Mm-hmm.
It is indeed free starter,
Mm-hmm.
and so there are two things. There is this dashboard, and that's something that you use through the command line. So this is of no use to the client. This is something that we can do from our local machines. There is this Elasticsearch Rails client, whatever that is.
Yeah, the Elasticsearch Rails. I hope this is, if I understand this correctly, this is a gem. You're looking at it right now. Elasticsearch model, Elasticsearch Rails. At some point I tried to make an application using Elasticsearch, and I remember using this Elasticsearch Rails gem.
Before we get to the Elasticsearch bit, I mean, I know very little about search engines, but as I understand it, it's one of the three I hear banded about, and the other two are Lucene and Solar.
Yeah. Thinking Sphinx probably as well.
Okay. Do we know what is any of these more attractive than the others? And I don't mean which one has a gem. I mean, is it worth doing a little bit of research on which is the best?
It might be.
What do we need search for? For the filters?
Or the filters.
Okay.
But I think we need to be clear. We're not saying that we're going to implement any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be able to make the decision of whether we want to, we have to have an understanding of what these things are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think doing a bit of.
I second that because I don't know. Beyond having heard their names, I don't know anything about them.
But I guess that would be interesting for our benefit, wouldn't it? If not for the client.
I think it's a worthwhile exercise finding out what each of them do and what the benefits and trade-offs are, and what they run on, and what language they use, and how difficult they are to maintain, and
As for Elasticsearch, I can answer this question basically almost immediately. I think it is Java based, and it has its own DSL, which is but this DSL looks very much like JSON. It is very, very, very intuitive.
Well, when you say Java and its own DSL, that is not sounding good.
Ransack, our favorite Ransack, also has its own DHL, and it's crap.
You're not making a strong case here, Andre. I have to say.
I know.
I think you may well be turned off by the fact that it's Java and has its own DSL until you find out the other three are also Java and have their own DSL.
I would expect so, yes. So the word Java is a no-no.
Well, I mean, Java's not bad in the quick that insofar as most things that are built on it are enterprise and stable and quick. But then, if I've got a program in Java, I'm starting to feel a migraine coming. That's why I went to Ruby.
Okay.
Jira doesn't strike me as either stable or quick. I have to.
Oh,
yeah,
is it?
Yeah, but that, yes, given. But I mean, if you look at a lot of databases now, some of the NoSQL databases, if they're not written in, if they're kind of platform agnostic, it's not uncommon for them to be written in Java. So Cassandra, which I think is the definitive, most people agree is the fastest NoSQL database at the moment. That's all written in Java.
So it's just that Atlassian doesn't know what they're doing.
Well, I think it depends. Maybe's Java's not great as a web framework, is it? Or certainly the older web frameworks. I think you've got Play coming out on Java now, which can be run on Java or Scala, however you want to pronounce it. And some of those old sort of Java web apps were pretty awful. I think that comes through sometimes when you're on these sites.
So what I'm maybe starting to understand, or possibly starting to misunderstand from reading this bonsai description and the other two, is that you send, when you do a search within your application, you send a request to this search that runs sort of behind the scenes, and it then returns JSON, or
It returns again. If I'm not entirely sure how this works with Heroku. If I can speak from the experience of that toy application that I tried, it returned either a bunch of active records or a bunch of the numbers of active records. So,
excuse my ignorance a little bit here, but is search not more suited to things where you have documents and unstructured data? I'm just wondering what search is going to give us in terms of our database.
yeah, because the one thing with search is that it's, at least when I think about search, I very quickly think about sort of fuzzy. It's for times when you don't know exactly what it is that you're looking for. Whereas if we're talking about, give me all the orphans from Damascus, it's really more about a simple SQL query rather than fuzzy search.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, not that there isn't any room for fuzzy searches if you're looking for an orphan whose last name begins with Smith, but might be Smithers or Smithson or what have you. Then
I think you can implement indexing on Postgres, though, that implements those sorts of things. So, I think we need to think on this, and it's quite an interesting area. Do we need it? If we do need it, what's it going to give us? What technology is the best? They're all good questions.
But it certainly, I think, as Andre pointed out, it does seem to be, a fairly hot area, or good thing to know for a web developer, or at least be superficially familiar with what these things are. So let's keep talking about this. Not now. In general.
Yeah. What was your idea, Craig, when you raised the question about filters?
But what started it for me is that when I was thinking of filters in the new Rails app, I was thinking really of queries rather than, and by that I mean you have show me the people with an orphan count of 3, for example. But what ActiveAdmin does is it chains filters, doesn't it? So it says, show me people with an orphan count of 3 and with a first name of Arthur and with a father's last name of Smith, and you chain all those filters together and get queries that match those results. And I just think we need to think about how we're going to implement filtering in Rails so that it's not half-baked, or ascertain that the client is happy with simple querying, and that's good enough, and that's what we stick with. I think we need to be clear about what the requirements are, or what we want to be creating before we dive in there and start making all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we can ask them very carefully, so as not to lead them into any particular direction.
Yeah.
To describe their, how they see themselves using filters. And if they say we simply want to see all the orphans from Homs, and that's where they stop, then that's our solution.
Yeah.
If they want to combine filters, like say all the orphans from, I don't know, from this place who are a priority kind of orphans, would this be difficult to do in Rails?
Well, we can change scopes. So maybe we have, I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but a checkbox where you and these queries together.
Yeah. I mean, at its very simplest, if you think about that, what was it, rotten potatoes? You were able to check, GPG-13 and whatever, and it would return all the movies with that rating, for example. Well, I guess that's very simple. That's oversimplistic, but.
Well, yeah, but you're on the right lines, aren't you? It's just the next stage on from that, and my gut feel is maybe that's probably good enough.
So Arrow will let you chain. It will let you chain them together.
What? Sorry.
Arrow, A-E-L. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
Well, we don't even need something like that. I mean, when we create a scope, it's a query to the database in a where clause, and you say you have a scope that's called I don't know, in Homs, and then you have a scope saying has two brothers. If you do scope Homs dot two brothers, it'll chain those two queries together and give you the results.
Yeah, I think Active Record is using Arrow for that.
And you can supply arguments to scopes.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
I didn't know that. That's useful.
Well, a scope is a class method. That's all it is. It's, as far as I know, it's nothing but syntactic sugar for a class method.
And basically, we're using a relational database, so it's all set theory. You go back to your Venn diagrams. You basically have all your people that are in Homs and all the people with two brothers, and there's a Venn diagram there, and the bits that overlap are the bits that returned.
Yeah.
It's all based on set theory.
So perhaps unless we get into chaining like 20 different filters and adding fuzzy search on top of that, we don't need to overthink this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we need a gem.
I wouldn't use a gem until we needed one.
Yeah.
I would start with scopes, a little bit like we've done with your Rails view. Start with the simplest thing, do scopes, and if that suddenly stops fitting the bill, then we need to look a little bit harder.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything else, or should we all rush to GitHub and do code review?
I just want to, this isn't Scrum related, but Andre, what was your project that you used the Elasticsearch on?
Um, well, I wanted to create a search engine for the publishing house in which I worked. They had a in-house application that was created in Fox Pro, a database which search, and that is a publishing house that works with translates medical literature. So after they translated a book, they would prepare it in a certain way and put it into that database. And I really liked the result that the database gave. So I wanted to sort of duplicate that, but not to do it in Fox because I don't know anything about that, but to do it with Ruby on Rails. So I almost did that, but it's not like they were terribly interested in it. So I sort of played with it on my machine, made sure that it sort of works, yeah, it stops.
Cool.
But you search the records in the database or the text
Yeah.
in the...
Yeah, I searched the text. So the idea is that you have imagine a table, a two-column table in Microsoft Word. That is basically how these books are prepared. So the left column would have the original text, which would be in English, and the right column would have the translated text, which would be in Russian. So you already have a table. A table structure. It's very simple to import into a database. So now a row of the database is this parallel construction, an original paragraph and a translated paragraph. And this application should search for a text for any combination of words, for example, in the original or in any paragraph you want, and you can create different kinds of searches, like starts with a certain combination of letters, or you want to search for a particular word, or you want to search for this exact word in this exact form, or you want to search for a phrase, and so on and so forth. So that comes out as useful.
Yeah, so elastic in one word.
Yeah, pretty elastic, yes.
Cool.
I was really excited about that project, but it's not like anybody else was as excited.
Well, don't lose hope. Fox Pro is not going to be around forever.
Yeah.
I can't believe you just said Fox Pro. Personally, I didn't think anybody used that anymore.
Yeah, I was quite surprised when I heard it. I thought,
well, they created their workflow. They developed their workflow in mid-1990s, and they haven't upgraded from that much. So it's they.
Is Fox Pro still supported?
I don't
know, but they don't really care as long as this database works, and it seems to work.
Yeah, the problem is not so much now, and this is all irrelevant to an extent. It's in 10 years' time when that server has to be decommissioned because it's approaching end of life, and they get a new server with a new version of Windows on that won't even.
Yeah,
Fox Pro.
It's yeah, it's not even a server-based application, not a network application. They had it locally, so you had to put it on your local machine. And I was happy to realize that I can do it. I can put it on my Linux machine under Wine, and it works perfectly.
Oh, okay.
So
it's got a stay of execution then, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It won't run on Windows, but it'll run on the.
It will. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, I need to get back to OSRA for just a bit here. Brian, so these links in the view, they're now broken, right?
You know, I should have tested them. They should be broken, yes.
Because you're defining basically all actions except destroy, but they're not implemented in the controller.
Yeah, if you don't route that, then the link helper is broken.
Right. And that, I guess, brings me to my second point, and that is, what do we do, if anything, with Cucumber at this stage?
I didn't even touch Cucumber. These are broken. I just confirmed.
Yeah.
The links broke.
Okay. Well, that's reassuring, I guess.
I think the idea was to create a separate folder for Cucumber for
Well,
HQ.
yeah. I'm thinking more about when it comes specifically to this pull request. Should there be any Cucumber in it at all? And when I'm thinking about that, myself, I'm thinking about approaching this really from, let's say, if we had a technically educated client, approaching it from their perspective. So writing, thinking about tests that are as high level as a client would want them to be, but no lower. Is there anything that Cucumber applies to in this case? So, to be more specific, then, should we be having integration tests that say if there are no partners, I should go to the partner index and see no partners found? Otherwise, I should see a table of partners. I should see links to individual partners, or is this far
I don't
too
think
low
individual
level?
links. I think maybe it's all we're looking for is making the request and seeing that the page renders successful.
If the user is signed in.
Yeah, because now this is just me thinking off the top of my head. I'm not saying this is, but everything else is tested for in view and controller specs, isn't it?
Right. Well, so maybe that goes back to.
I think that you're just now beginning to move in the direction of what our old Cucumber specs look like.
I didn't mean to suggest anything when I asked those questions. I was asking them.
Throwing it on the table.
Well, if you're not suggesting anything, I'm suggesting that doesn't happen.
Okay. I'm happy not testing links.
Well, I was thinking Cucumber was going to be more for higher level things than what anything that's in this PR.
Is the app being not accessible to non-signed in users? Does that warrant a Cucumber test?
I think one test.
Well, I mean, do you think that the client would say that they want this page to not be accessible, or do you think that they would just assume something like that? If they're going to assume that, then I would probably think it shouldn't be Cucumber.
The reason I like Cucumber for that is that it's being driven by a browser rather than by the Rails infrastructure. So when we do the controller tests and the view tests, there's a lot of stubbing going on, and sometimes with the best will in the world.
Well, when it comes to authentication and authorization, I think that we can't be too careful in that respect. But when it comes to everything else, I think it's a different category. I can't hurt checking that twice, but as far as other things, I don't know about.
Okay.
What are other people's thoughts? I mean, when we talk about an integration test, what are people's thoughts on what it is? What do we class as end to end? How?
Well, I, for example, would like to see some sort of test where you upload a spreadsheet, you put it into the database, you then do a download of that spreadsheet and you do some sort of comparison with the original. I think that kind of falls into that sort of category.
Yeah.
I agree. This,
But in this particular case, when we're just talking about the partner's index page,
yeah.
Is rendering the partner's index page worthy of a cucumber test?
so
And
yeah,
if it is it just that it renders because everything else is caught in the... Nick, what's your thoughts? Because you've got strong views on cucumber.
I most certainly do. What I was thinking, actually, and I think it kind of solidified for me while I was saying it, is that, we talk about the overlap between Cucumber and RSpec, and that, well, this is tested already in RSpec, so we don't need to test it in Cucumber. But what if we approached Cucumber exactly the way that I was describing it, and we say, what if we had a sufficiently technically educated client who was interested in writing these high-level specifications for the application. And with that in mind, I personally, to me, that sounds like actually a pretty good approach, to rely on Cucumber for that, so that in that way we don't test anything low-level, because both the client and the developer assume that when you click on a link, that link works, and we don't need to descend down to that level of detail. And it also allows us to focus our Cucumber on key areas. So, for example, what Robbie mentioned, that's a critical process, and it's not a simple one, upload of orphan lists. So the client probably has a pretty good idea of how they want this to happen, and that's what they want to write out. Whereas when it comes to an index page for, well, any of the models, really, unless there is something peculiar about one of them, both the client and the developer just kind of look at each other and nod and say, well, it's an index page. So my answer to this particular PR is I would like to see an authentication test in Cucumber, but nothing more than that.
If I can say here something, if you remember how ActiveAdmin behaves, when you try to get to your application, it shows you the login screen. Right, you input your credentials, and then you get to sort of a kind of dashboard. So you do not get to an index page for partners or index page for what have you, but you get to some ground zero, so to some front page. So maybe this is where the test should occur.
I think that's a fair point.
That is a fair point, but the other thing is that if you try to go somewhere and you're not logged in, and then you log in, you don't go to dashboard. I don't think it's relevant.
So how about then saying, okay, well, partner came first, so partner gets the honor of testing the authentication system. And the test could be, it begins with, I try to go to the partner index page. I should see the login screen, and then when I log in, then I see the partner's index page.
Cool, but are we agreed that this isn't a partner's feature? Are we going to create a feature called authentication feature that just happens to call partners?
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Do we need to set up Cucumber somehow, or how would we create this parallel Cucumber?
I think if you guys agree you want this, that's my job to figure it out.
I think I recall we talked about HQ features folder.
Yes. Yes. Yes, but how do you technically do that? Do you know?
Well, you just create an HQ features directory and put in the tests that you need, and then when you run Cucumber, you'll have to run Cucumber minus whatever the line switch is, and then point it to HQ features rather than features.
Don't you also create a some Cucumber settings file? When you initially install Cucumber and you create this feature folder, you create it by using Cucumber, don't you? Something like Cucumber install or
Yeah,
something.
most of those can probably be copied. I mean, you have to have a look at those.
ActiveAdmin runs Cucumber twice and RSpec once, so I'll look in there and see what they did. And that's for each version of Ruby plus Rails. They do that. It's crazy.
Okay, so let's say HQ features folder, and maybe as simple as just copy and paste the relevant files. There's the envarb file and maybe something else. And then that just about does it from the technical standpoint. So the follow-up question is, do we hold up this pull request for that?
No.
Agreed. Okay.
If that answer is no, do you want to make a new story for that, and I'll add that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it a story or a subtask?
Subtask.
Yeah.
You want to make it, or should I?
If you're going to work on it, Brian, then please go ahead.
I'm going to have eventually some kind of a dashboard, some front page that would greet the logged in users.
That's Brian's specialty.
What? I'm sorry, I was typing. What did you say?
I'm going to have some kind of a dashboard eventually. Something where you get some first initial page where you get after you log in.
I'm sure we probably will.
Because the authentication, the proper authentication testing should probably belong to that page.
Okay, before I create this test, do you guys just want to make, instead of adding it into the partner Rails story, do you want to make a dashboard Rails story and add the authentication task to that?
I don't want to create a dashboard specifically for the sake of testing the authentication.
Well, it is something that we'll need at some point, and it's going to be probably not take very long.
Well, we may or we may not, because there is, if we start thinking very far ahead and about different user roles, then perhaps the sponsor agents get taken directly to the sponsors page.
Okay,
and the partner agent, yeah.
Yep, that answers it.
Are we going to put on the dashboard page? If you want to find out more, click here.
No, if click here appears anywhere, it gets flagged in code review. I wish I could delete that from the whole web.
That's your next task.
Yeah. Well, first set up a script on GitHub that automatically flags that, and
yeah.
Actually,
you know what? I should apply for a job at GitHub just to do that.
Yeah, I give you a good reference, I guess. Actually, you know what? I know that I'm harping on or I don't know, maybe I'm beating on a dead horse at this point, but if we had a style guide and Hound enabled on our repo, we could configure it so that if it finds click here, it screams at you.
So when you put in a PR for that, I'll review it.
Well, we need to agree on a style first. Or we need to even agree that we need a style.
I think at this point I'm pretty safe.
Looking at a dead horse was quite a good description, actually.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I have to say that with those questions answered, I am good with pull request number 242 being merged in.
If you're happy with it, do it. Ship it.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. I was flabbergasted that on the day the application went to production, there was not a single ship-it squirrel.
Oh, that escaped me. I didn't notice that.
Because
Wow.
you're the one meant to be sending them, Brian. You failed.
Yeah,
It's an epic fail.
That is an epic fail. That's not an epic fail, that's the epic fail.
And so is that Shepherd Squirrel. We've seen him 3 times now. You need to have a word with Slackbot.
Yeah, Slackbot keeps picking the same one. There's so many good ones out there, it keeps picking that one.
Okay, well, guys, the road is now open.
So you merged it in?
Yep.
Okay.
Alright, well we have lots of work to do now then.
Off we go.
Off we go.
All right, then. Everybody have a good New Year's Eve.
Yeah. So next scrum is the day after tomorrow, right?
Well, if somebody's around at this time tomorrow, then please go ahead and run it. I won't be here, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen.
I will be around, but it's also not right before midnight in my hemisphere, so yeah.
Well, you can record yourself talking to yourself for 15 minutes.
Yep.
All right, guys. Have a good one. And,
All right.
I gotta say it. See you next year.
Yeah.
Next year.
Happy New Year.
Okay.
Yeah, Happy New Year, guys.
Okay, guys. Bye.
Bye bye.